Okay, we've got 3D triceps here. The tricep brachiale means 3 muscle groups. What's interesting about the tricep brachiale, there's 3 muscles. There's 2 that are superficial, which is the long head and the lateral head. The medial head you actually can't see, it's hidden. It's hidden underneath the long head. And what's interesting about the long head, origin or point of origin is here, right on the scapula. Now the point of origin is called the infraglenoid trulocal, right here, and that's where the long head is. Now you can see this whole tricep muscle looks it's atrophying, right? I did that for a reason, because the goal of hypertrophy is to make this bigger, is to increase the volume, increase the size, increase the mass, increase the cross-sectional area of this muscle. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about what this particular muscle does. This is the key. This one is out there all on its own, an island. This is the long head muscle. It's very, very special. Adapt. Long head. Now, before I talk about the long head, what's interesting about the medial head, it is always activating. Even if you've got no load, you could be doing this, and this medial head, which you can't see on the diagram, is always working. Now, the long head, let's talk about the long head really quickly. Oh, by the way, before we talk about the long head, the lateral head, they say is the strongest out of all 3 heads. Maybe people think that they can flare their elbows and be in a pronated grip, and then as they push down, they think that they're getting more bias towards this lateral head. That's not actually true. What's actually happening is less activation at the long head. So with the long head, let's talk about this muscle because it's very special. The long head sits out there on its own on a desert island. Now, what's important, because it's on its own, and by the way, before we talk about the long head, what's interesting about the tricep, these 3 muscles, is they're biarticular muscles, meaning they cross 2 joints. The olecranon, which is the elbow, and then the scapula. Now, this long head is so special. Now, when this long head goes into adduction, right? This is the humerus bone behind it. The humerus bone adducts, right? So when it adducts, that means the lat's gonna fire, and also the pectorals are gonna fire, but more importantly, the long head's gonna fire. So as soon as you adduct your shoulder, that's what's gonna happen. This muscle's gonna activate. Now you saw in that video, not only did I adduct my shoulder, I also pulled my elbow back, which is also another function of the long head. So there's 2 primal functions of the long head: adduct the shoulder, extend the humerus, and now you put all the stress back, the good stress, back onto the long head. You'll also, in this position with extension and adduction, you'll also activate the medial head, because these muscles, as soon as you encounter resistance, turn on. The medial head is always acting all the time, regardless if you're lifting no load. So in summary, the lateral head, the outside, the horseshoe of the tricep, what you need to understand about this is that the lateral head cannot be isolated on its own. So if you're doing these exercises with your elbows flared, you start to go into what we call a frontal plane position. As soon as your elbows come out, what's going to happen? You're going to push down, which is going to cause the shoulders to internally rotate. It's okay the one time, but if you keep doing it over and over and over and over again, injuries are going to occur. Your shoulders are going to start acting up. Then you're going to have elbow problems. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to get injured. So when you're encountering a tricep kickback, when you're encountering a tricep pushdown with a rope, or an overhead extension with a dumbbell or a cable or a rope, always know that the medial head is always working. For me, the best long head exercise, since for me it is the biggest muscle out of the 3, most apparent anyway, and it's the most superficial, is kickbacks, number 1. Number 2 would be some type of tricep rope push down with the dual tricep push down. What you want to do is keep your elbows tucked into your sides, adduct the shoulder, extend it, and then go into a push down. So extend the humerus, adduct the humerus, extend the elbow. Adduct, adduct. Long head. What you're going to find when you do the kneeling exercise with the rope, the dual position with the elbows tucked in, adducting at the shoulder, you're going to lean slightly forward. That's okay. You can also do it standing, but when you're doing it standing, the strength curve does change ever so slightly. So I prefer to do it kneeling because it forces me to stabilize more. It forces me to stabilize my trunk. It forces me to keep my glutes activated. So I'm trying to create what we call this internal stabilization.